To let the reader who expects this book to be a political expose slam its covers shut right now. If only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who's willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? During the life of any heart, this line keeps changing place. Sometimes it's squeezed one way by its exuberant evil, and sometimes it shifts to allow enough space for good to flourish. One and the same human being is, at various ages, under various circumstances, a totally different human being. At times, he is close to being a devil, at times to sainthood. But his name doesn't change, and to that name we ascribe the whole lot, good and evil. Socrates taught us, know thyself. Confronted by the pit into which we are about to toss those who have done us harm, we halt, stricken dumb. It is, after all, only because of the way things worked out that they were the executioners and we weren't. If Malyuta Skuratov had summoned us, we too probably would have done our work well. From good to evil is one quaver, says the proverb, and correspondingly from evil to good. From the moment when our society was convulsed by the reminder of those illegalities and tortures, they began on all sides to explain, to write, to protest. Good people were there too, meaning in the NKVD-MGB. We know which good people they are talking about. They were the ones who whispered to the old Bolsheviks, don't weaken, or even sneaked a sandwich into them, and who kicked all the rest around wherever they found them. But weren't there also some who rose above the party, who were good in a general human sense? Broadly speaking, they should not have been there. The organs avoided employing such people, eliminating them at the recruitment stage, and such people played their hands shrewdly so as to get out of it. Whoever got in by mistake either adjusted to the milieu or else was thrown out or eased out or even fell across the rails himself. Still, were there no good people left there? Hello,
Wow.
Simon. So welcome to the podcast. That was an excerpt from the Gulag Archipelago, Volume 1 by Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Oh man.
Hopefully that will set a foundation for our podcast to start our discussion. So, any thoughts about that?
I don't know how I could add to that. I mean, the final line was like, were there any good people left? That was mic drop right there, man.
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about. Like, that's a genuine question you can ask in a society where everything was demolished, basically. Like, many people, if not most people, were just telling lies, and it was a genuine question. Were there no good people left there? So it's interesting.
Wow.
I just think about, like, I don't know, it brings to mind, like, us as human beings in any society. Like, we live in the US right now. We could go down that road. We might think, no, it's not possible. But if each of us start telling, small lies and, you know,
Wow.
avoiding the truth, then we could go there as well. And it would be a terrible tragedy if that were to happen. So I don't know.
Well put. I can't imagine a better way to put that. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on the truth? Like
Mhm.
when you think of the word truth, like what comes into mind when you hear it?
Right. Maybe a modern person would say that the truth is what is objectively factual or logical or rational. But the way I think about truth is more of a in a practical manner. Um, what I mean is that the truth, classically, it's been thought about as something that is attributed to an object. So you can have a sword that's true. It's it means that it's sharp and it's able to cut properly and easily.
Hmm.
So its purpose is that the thing is competent in its function. So it's like another metaphor, or this is what people called true, is when you were shooting a bow, the arrow was said to fly true if it was going towards the target and if it
Wow.
landed on the target. So it's kind of like a functional definition. It's dependent on the purpose of the thing, like if it's actually fulfilling that. So that's how I think about truth in general. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
um
I really find it interesting that you associate it with uh the intention of aiming for a target. So, would you say that truth has an intentional kind of element to it?
I would say so. There's this cliche that says the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So
Wow.
you can object to the statement that the intentions don't really matter. But
Huh.
I would say that the intention is is what we need to keep as being a a human quality which is valued greatly, because um animals don't really do things with intention. They just act out their behavioral patterns. Human beings have this capacity to, as Solzhenitsyn was mentioning, that the line of good and evil cuts every human heart. So we do have this intention that we get to choose between what two actions or what actions that we're going
Wow.
to commit to. So I do think of it as intentional.
Wow. But the results, of course, really matter the most. But
Right.
intention, it's a way for us to stay in healthy alliance in our future uh, behavior with the truth.
Right. So you mentioned that the results do matter, and I agree. You maybe we could use an example. So you can say that if we're playing a sport, let's say, football or something, we do want to win the game. That would be the result that we get to. But the intention might be to not cheat in the game, no matter what. Even if you want to win, the intention would be, I'm going to play a fair game so that people actually keep wanting to play with me, instead of me cheating and then my reputation being ruined and me never being invited to play the game again. Like that would be a bad thing just to attain the result. So I would
Wow.
argue a little bit against that, but if you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
Yeah. But to return back to the passage a little bit, I think Solzhenitsyn he's he starts off this this little passage that I started reading. He starts off saying, "So let the reader who expects this book to be a political expose slam its cover shut right now." So he's saying that he's not doing a political analysis because that's not what he's interested in. Um, that's if you do a political analysis, that means that you are playing the game of saying this party was right or this party was right. He's not interested um in having an argument about that. He's trying to go deeper and understand what the human motivations are and what the psychology behind these terrible atrocities is. Um, is did your camera turn off, or is that just me?
Definitely me again.
Okay.
Sorry, audience. And Richard, are you able to see me again?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. But do you think that a political analysis is useful in our modern age? Like, should we be analyzing things through a political perspective? Maybe the terrible things that are happening in the world, the injustices.
Mm. I'll need some time to approach that question.
Definitely.
So allow me to think out loud right now.
Please.
So when I think of political injustices right now, I'm thinking about all the stuff I've been seeing on the news, basically about, unfair, police brutality, um, what's been going on in like education, basically, and in terms of, student debt. I don't have to list all of them, and I definitely don't want to bring that energy into everybody's consciousness, but definitely that's I don't have an answer for that right now, actually. Let me ask you a question then.
Okay.
What level of analysis do you think is most appropriate to even define the problem of injustice? And by level of analysis, I mean like if you were to be a judge, who would be the most appropriate judge? Like the citizen, the government, the victim, like all of the actors in this play that we have right now. Let's start beginning with America, for instance, with what's been going on. What level of analysis is the most appropriate to define this problem?
Right. So what my thinking goes to immediately is that the system that we have currently, which is that the person that is under suspicion is innocent before they're proven guilty. And I think there's a lot there that you can unpack and understand. So we do have this. I think our system works pretty well, but it could be improved. We What we do is we have this jury, right? Who maybe there's like 12 people in it, and if even one of them determine that there's not enough evidence to convict this person, and they determine that they're innocent, then they're not there's there's not enough to say, oh, this person will be proven is guilty of the crime. So it's like, even if one person out of 12, one person's conscience bugs them and says there's a slight chance that this person's innocent, then that throws the whole thing, for a loop, throws everybody for a loop. And I guess you have to adjust from there. So the thing is, I think the reason we go there, or we have this system in place, is because we've agreed as a society, or at least we did in the past, that the consciousness that is possessed by all human beings is a sacred thing. Which would what I mean by that is that you should, even if someone has murdered someone else, you should hold that capacity to choose between good and evil as being something that is common across all people, and is at the same time kind of so special that it's almost a miracle that it's possible to do
Mm,
that. So, to answer your question, I think that the the psychological level seems correct to me. Um, you mentioned like government or judge or victim, being the judge of a person who commits the crime. But I think maybe the perspective is more useful to look through.
mm,
Um, if you if you're trying to analyze the injustices, I think it's useful to look at the motivations which caused the injustices to occur in the first place. Um, so maybe you can stop it from even happening instead of reacting all
wow.
the time. So if each of us can prevent the injustices from or us acting out that injustice, then
Wow.
it would the problem would be solved if everyone did that. So I think it is a psychological um, issue at the core. It's
Wow.
we need to be able to control our minds and prevent the malevolence of our heart manifesting itself in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I
it
don't
all
know.
be like the individual and individual responsibility.
Sure. You can say that. That sums it up, I think. Right. So
Well,
so I asked you about the political thing, but what do you think about approaching issues through a psychological perspective? Do you think that's placing too much responsibility on the individual, or do you think that that's the best way to approach a complex issue, is to start with yourself and go from there?
well, I can only speak from the perspective of a student, and I honestly have not been in a position of leadership. So I definitely am not in a position to really speak about what should be done. But there are people that I look up to, and I guess people to name a few, like there's Jordan Peterson. Uh, there's some YouTubers I look up to as well. In terms of the messages they send. Leo Gura. Um, who else is a good one? Uh, Even past leaders, like Martin Luther King. Like they, I observed that they have like a combination of like individual responsibility but as well as, like a uh I don't know how to explain it. Like a
Do you think they also have this bigger picture in their mind about how um, they can take on the problems of the community and expand from that into like the social world? Like Jordan is doing this thing with his YouTube where he is he has like 3.5 million subscribers, and he's people are watching his videos, and he's having an influence, a big social impact as well. So, and Martin Luther King, obviously, he was a um you, I would call him like the an activist, but not today's activist. He was a real activist. What I mean is
wow,
he had the image of perfection, the perfection in his mind about the world, like this the reality is not matching this perfection at all,
wow,
and something needs to be done about that. So, and what he did was he did take personal responsibility for it. He was killed for his beliefs. So
wow,
he didn't just make statements and avoid the responsibility completely, which is what many activists do today. They they just make statements and then don't do anything about it at all, and it's unfortunate um, that that happens. But I guess there's only a few people that are going to be able to manifest the ideal way of acting in the world, and he was one of them. So it's very useful to look at his value system and kind of extrapolate like what things of use you can derive from that or learn from him. So I don't know. Does that
couldn't have said it better.
is that a did I do justice to helping you answer that question? Or
Yeah. I really liked what you said about looking to leaders and people that have been genuine actors of justice and to actually learn from them. And I find it interesting how you contrasted that with the activism of today, like quote unquote activism that we see, which is just social media, a lot of social media, uh, a lot of a lot of provocative activity through social media. Essentially,
right.
it is quite different. I feel like how that's. I'm pretty sure genuine activism exists today, and
Hmm.
that's definitely. Do you know of any activist groups that you mentioned Jordan Peterson actually as one agent of activism. So tell me more about your experience with with coming across Jordan Peterson and the moves that he's been making.
So I discovered Jordan Peterson maybe 4 years ago. I stumbled upon his his lectures. Funnily enough, while I was trying to quit playing video games, I discovered a a clip of him talking about responsibility and how men, especially women as well, but men especially, hunger for responsibility and the associated meaning that comes along with that in life. So that's how I first discovered Jordan, and I just went into the rabbit hole completely and was able to was able to find his videos very useful. He he's able to communicate in a way that provides an understanding of yourself without him talking down to you. All right, so we're recording again. Simon, so you asked me about my experience with Jordan Peterson's videos and his influence on the the community in general. And so I first discovered Jordan when in like 2017. I think it might have been 2016 when the pronoun controversy happened. He objected to a bill, C-16, which said that you have to use these pronouns to address people who ask you to use their pronouns. He saw it as a political move to gain power over the speech of the citizens in Canada. And yeah, I agree with that. It seems like if you make up words, um, then and then ask people, not ask people, but say you have to use these words or else, which means you go to jail or you get billed or fined or whatever it is. Um, that's clearly infringing on some freedom of speech uh, issue. It's like you people bring up the fact that there is hate speech. Um, so that means you're not allowed to say certain things. But this is different. You're they're telling you that you have to say certain things,
Mm.
and that's just not acceptable because we should be able to decide what comes out of our mouth because
Wow.
that's that's what that's what we're doing right now. We're able to decide with each other like what we're going to share. And if it's if someone is forcing me to say z or zer to address them, I'm not going to be happy about it because
Mm.
it's it's not it's not me speaking from my heart. um
Mm.
i'm not able to I'm not able to speak as true as I could. It turns into a lie. Like
Mm.
my speech becomes filled with deception or not
Wow.
deception, but it's like it's a falsity. There's not the truth has been, you know, kind of twisted. So that's how I think about it. But yeah,
Wow.
that's how he gained popularity. And I think that was a a really good courageous thing to do because he absolutely um had his from then on, like he had to go on leave because the university told him that this is illegal, the videos that you're making, because they
Wow.
object to the bill. So what he was saying is that if I just don't use some words,
Wow.
I'm going they're going to say or else. So, and
Wow.
that's what happened. They didn't say or else. So, it was kind of comical. Like people were also calling him paranoid
Mm.
about like how far it's going to go like if you don't use the words. And then exactly what he said would happen basically. So, but yeah, that's just the start of it. But what he has, it's not just someone that challenged a controversial topic. What he has on his YouTube channel are so many videos which have so much wisdom and practical value in them
Wow.
that I have just been I look up to him. He's probably my favorite human being who's alive right now, I would say. It's just such a great impact on me, um, that I I don't know, like I don't know if he didn't exist in the world, what
Mhm.
like how I would be right now. I don't know. You know, it's really difficult to say. Maybe someone else would be there to substitute in for him, but who knows? I don't know. I'm just
Wow.
it boggles me like how much good a person could do in the world if they just put their mind to it and took on all the responsibility that's required for that.
Wow.
So that's the way I think about him. And yeah, it's like you mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. You could also say that. I'm sure he has had that impact on other people. And all these admirable people, like you basically can say about them, like the world would be a much worse place if they hadn't existed. So, um, yeah, it's amazing. I don't know. I'm just grateful.
Gratitude for, like, people that just, I'm glad, first of all, that we both can sit down here in America and like actually like we have the First Amendment in our Constitution, freedom of speech, basically. I'm glad that I'm grateful for the system that we currently have right now for us to even engage in these kinds of conversations. And always hearing Jordan Peterson's stories definitely like uh it puts a stark reminder of the courage and cost that it takes really to have this freedom in the first place. It's not given, nothing's guaranteed, and you really have to fight for and be brave and be expressive of the truth, basically, no matter any no matter what the cost. And I feel like Jordan Peterson is a good reminder of the true leadership that it takes to for our First Amendment right to exist in the first place. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think each of us holds a certain amount of responsibility to keep the system afloat because everyone wants to come here. It's like everyone that's in other countries, they want to come to Canada, the US, or some other place that has a similar culture. So if you just think about it that way, it's like there's a reason they want to do that. It's like the system is working better than all the other systems that are currently being offered. So it's not perfect. But it's like how are we going to create the perfection? Are we going to just keep making political moves and aim at the utopia and try to force it? Like that's basically what the pronouns is. They're aiming at the perfect world where you can be called whatever you want to be called. Like your identity could be um so flexible and malleable that you can determine the speech that other people are using towards you because you feel uncomfortable being called by the traditional pronouns. So it's it's just I just think like the system has its flaws, but compared to everything else, it's the best one. And you said, you know, it's our job basically it our job is to keep the system afloat. And yeah, each of us need to do that. And some people do it better than others. You know? For example, Jordan Peterson, and they're carrying they're carrying the load for us.
Wow.
And it's our job to maybe unburden them a little bit
Oh
and
wow.
take some of that load onto us. So like the whole system doesn't end up like the gulag that we were mentioning. Are there any good people left? He said. Um, maybe. Who knows? But um, what?
I love the way you connected that back to the Gulag archipelago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like the opposite, right? Where like nobody's taking responsibility. Everybody's taking the path of least resistance, which is just to lie to save their asses, basically.
Yes.
And everybody is out for themselves, but as a result, everybody lives in the collectively. Everybody lives in hell, basically.
That's right. Yeah. And what that hell is, it's the process of creating a world that is worse and worse. That's what that
Wow.
hell is. Your because you can
Selfishness.
go ahead.
Selfishness.
Selfishness, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, arrogance, there's deceit in there, and selfishness, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just terrible, you know, the it's like there's no delay of gratification. Everything is wanted immediately. The perfection, yeah, it's like practical, you know, delay of gratification is such a practical thing to engage in. We're sacrificing our current desires that we have right now, to trying to create something in the future that's beautiful or more valuable or just something better in general. So it's just unfortunate that a whole society could end up that way because enough people didn't delay gratification, take responsibility for the future. So I just hope we could stay away from that. If you know, if
Well,
I could do it. Go ahead.
let's end on a positive note. Earlier, you mentioned truth as something that can be aimed for, where you have a bow and you're shooting for target. And if the person that is aiming could be the level of the individual, if we were to take responsibility in aiming for the target, how about, let me ask you this, what will be your goal then for aiming for your own personal heaven, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
I could see whatever that means for you. Like a what what positive things have you been working on that you could
Right.
consider is, benefiting yourself and has been selfless in a way?
Right. So we talked about hell being a process kind um, of work, creating a world that's worse and worse. And you mentioned heaven, and I think about that the same way. It's a Heaven is a process. It's not like a state of being. It could be a state of being that you end up in, but it's more like a process of a state of mind almost that you're continually working on to manifest a better and better, world as a result. Maybe you're bettering yourself as well at the same time. That would be ideal. So it's you said what am I doing? I just think I'm trying to take on as much responsibility as possible. I'm trying to um suffer in my life in a way that produces value in the future for me. It's like an example would be the jiu-jitsu classes that I'm going to right now. It's
Wow.
like in the present, moment to moment, when you're being crushed by someone, it's unpleasant, and you are suffering, in a sense. But what's happening is you're developing your skill, your body is being trained, you're building muscle memory, and you're learning how to be harmonious uh, with your body. You know, your mind and body become one, and they become more aligned. And um, you mentioned before the podcast, I sound very calm. And I think one of the things that has allowed me is to um, be more at peace with myself, because it does allow for the integration of mind and body, and you do feel more comfortable and confident, and you can just rely on that, because what you're doing on the mats when you're grappling and sparring with another person is that you're facing reality immediately. You're not able to avoid it. If you're not good enough, the person is going to submit you and tap you. So the reality hits, and it's like, I have to accept it, because you can't avoid it. If you avoid it, then you're just going to quit. You're not going to do jiu-jitsu anymore. So you're faced with a decision there. It's either fail or adapt. And that's the case there. And that's just been helping me to that's
Wow.
that's one of the things that has helped me to start this YouTube uh channel
Wow.
and start doing stuff like this. It's helped me develop the confidence to not be so self-conscious and worry about what other people are going to think. It's just, I can say what I think, and it's like Jordan says, like, don't worry about the consequences. Like, the truth, what the truth will bring into the world is the best possible outcome. So why stress about it? It's an adventure. Like, just say what you think,
Wow.
and then, like, put your hands up, and like, that's what it is. It is what it is. Yeah.
Wow.
um I don't know if that answered your question, but
I did.
yeah.
I feel like that's a wonderful way that's a positive note. I feel like we could end
Hmm.
the podcast.
Okay, so yeah, we should end there. I really enjoyed speaking to you, Simon. You asked some really, really good questions. um we'll definitely speak again.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward
I'll
to
have you on again on the podcast. Hopefully we'll be wiser individuals when we speak again,
it.
as we take individual responsibility in our lives and try to just, create that heaven that you mentioned. So, yeah, maybe for ourselves and then for others.
Wow. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah,
You're
definitely. Yeah.
inspiring me for real to like check out jujitsu actually. Uh, like oh
Yeah.
man, like seriously, is it expensive first of all?
No,
Like
like the gym that I go to in pretty much North Sacramento is only like 130 a month,
oh,
and you have to buy a uniform.
okay.
But it's so worth it. Like,
Right.
the the training that you're receiving, it's like it's invaluable. Like, there's no monetary value on that. Like, the amount of, like, we think like we're in, buying things for ourselves and stuff. Like, I'm interested in watches and stuff, and I used to, purchase some. I've sold some, and it's just like, comparing jujitsu to watches, it's like there's no comparison. It's like,
Wow.
a watch is what you wear on your wrist, and it's like, it tells the time, and I enjoy it. But jujitsu is what is developing me in a way that I think is best for me, and will be best for everyone else, once that allows me to manifest my potential. So it's it's going to be good, I think. I'm already seeing it working, so
I love
it's
that.
awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, why buy the value if you could be the value, man? Like, if
Right, right.
right, bruh. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, be
I'll
the
look into
value.
it. I'll
That's
look
right.
into it. I'll Google it so that I'll say I did something. But bruh,
No,
I need that. I need that reality check.
do it, man. Yeah, because otherwise we have so many defense mechanisms that
Yeah.
we employ, and they just kick in automatically because you can avoid the reality. And yeah, but that's just,
Right.
it's like in your face, and you're like, oh, I have to improve now,
Yo.
so this guy doesn't, kick my butt every time. So yeah.
All right. Love it, man. My
Okay.
battery's about to die, so I gotta go. I'm gonna go.
No
I'm gonna
problem, man. That's a
finish it.
good place to end. It was great speaking with you. Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
All right. Until next time.
Hasta la vista.